Hey, listen, we're in a weird place in the Bible. I think I just did this. We're going to do a story. We're going to jump down to the verses that relate to it, and then next week do the middle. Is that okay? I'll try to keep it like it makes sense. But let's start Mark chapter 11, verse 12. Now, he's just ridden in on a donkey into the city. We talked about the Hosanna and all those things. It says, on the next day when they left Bethany, he, Jesus, became hungry. And seeing at a distance a fig tree and leaf, he went to see if perhaps he would find anything on it. And when he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. And he said to it, may no one ever eat from you again. And his disciples were listening. Now, down to verse 19. When it was evening, they would go out of the city, and as they were passing by in the morning, they saw the fig tree withered from the roots up. Being reminded, Peter said to him, Rabbi, look, the fig tree which you cursed has withered. And Jesus answered, saying to them, have faith in God. Now, this is a very odd, because it starts out with he's hungry and went to a fruitless tree. And it's real clear from the other Gospels and this one, it wasn't the season, it wasn't the time of year for figs to be ripe. So May, a little later than May, the figs start ripening. And figs, I love figs. My Italian relatives all had fig trees, and I loved figs. And I got a fig tree in my yard, and people that come and eat them, they say, it's just so good. They eat them right off the tree. And if you're hungry, they're very filling. But the thing is, there's not always ripe figs on the tree. It's only a certain time of year, right? And I was reading a commentary that said this is so un-Christ-like. This is so a story that doesn't belong because it makes Jesus not Jesus. He curses the fig tree that when it's not even the season for figs. And I'm like, people read stuff and they come up with all different kinds of opinions. And I'm like, I would sure like to understand. And many years ago, I started to understand this story and understood that what I do today has incredible relevance for what happens tomorrow. I recently had a man come out of my past to celebrate my 50 years of following Jesus, who him and his wife on the side reminded me of some things I did in his church. And I was in his church when Vicki was pregnant with Anthony, and I was so wounded by my previous 2 youth ministries that I wanted to sit for a minute. And he was coming, and I knew he'd heard of me in Foursquare, and I was like, stand back, like get away, out of my face. I'm framing, I'm full on, I'm working. I got, by then I probably had 50 guys working for me. I'm, like, back off, Pastor. You're not getting me involved. And they talked about that. You were so hurt. You just wanted to sit. But then they reminded me, the things you did from that seat, like the children's center that's built because of what you did sitting in that seat. They reminded me how many children over the course of my lifetime, all these years. Anthony's 35. Yeah, Anthony's 35. So 35 years of fruit that grew from a hurt and wounded Christian man sitting in a congregation. When my pastor from Spokane was here visiting last time, it's been a while, but it might have been when I visited him in Spokane 2 years ago. He said to me, do you remember the day when you walked in my office? We both said, I wanted to talk to you at the same time. And it was about the camp, that we only got 7 kids from 13 churches to go to camps. And we both said, we got to do something about it. And I went to work and we built this camp. He said, do you know how many people in 35 years? I think it was more like 40, actually. Long time. Wow, that was a long time ago. You know how many kids have been saved and healed and delivered and come to a relationship in the Holy Spirit with Jesus Christ from that meeting in that office that day? That day there was no fruit of anything. And Jesus walks up to this tree and there's no fruit and he curses it. And but here's the problem with the story. It he picked a tree that had leafed. And a tree that has new buds of leaves on it has new buds of fruit. And what the story says is there was none of those. There was no fruit on it. It did not bud for fruit. And everyone picks on the fact there's not ripe figs, but made it real clear it's not supposed to be ripe figs, but they're supposed to be the beginnings of fruit. They're supposed to be the signs of fruit. This will bear fruit. And there will be, right? And you're like, what's he talking about? Let me tell you about the story. I'll read the last words from last week. What did I start on? 12? And Jesus entered Jerusalem, came into the temple, and after looking around at everything, he left. He looked around at the temple, and he saw no evidence. There's never going to be fruit here. Our next story is next week. What I skipped here is the cleansing of the temple, the throwing over of the tables, the anger. One of the stories says he chased him around with whips to get him out of his father's temple and said, my father's house is a temple of prayer, not a den of thieves. You've made it a den of thieves. Liars, just horrible. And the business going on in there was horrible. Big money. All the evidence of God's temple. But Jesus looked at everything and said, oh, no, you did not. And he left. He did his thing and he came back. On his way out, he saw a fig tree and made an example of it. You see that temple? Just like this tree. No fruit. Not even gonna have fruit. There will be no fruit in this temple. Now, he cursed it. And walking out, they're going, it's withered to the roots. Yeah. That's what happens to God's holiness when it doesn't have the potential to bear fruit. It withers to the roots. In creation, the 7 days of creation, in the 7 days of creation, a thing called the laws of thermodynamics. God didn't call them that, man did. Man discovered God's creation and said, I've discovered something. Oh no, he knew about it long before you did. And in the laws of thermodynamics, which is like mine too, I'm just a carpenter, but I understand laws of thermodynamics. All things break down and decay. That's why if you put an apple on the ground, like it falls out of the tree, it rots faster. It just rots. It'll break down. Come back in a couple weeks. You'll see no sign of the apple. It will just go back to the ground. All things go into old ancient cities, and their once stone temples and their once stone walls are all falling down. The rain, the storms, the wind, the sun, oh my gosh, UV rays. I remember when they invented vinyl windows, I said, they say they've tested it, but they can't. The power of the sun, and of course the first generations of vinyl windows were just horrible, actually. They did not last in the sun. The sun decayed them so fast. And they improved upon it, but still, come back in 50 years and those vinyl windows will decay too. There is nothing man can make that won't decay. And so, the laws of thermodynamics. It looks good now, but what will give it life? What will cause it to perpetuate itself? Kind of the way, if no man goes to a forest, does it perpetuate itself? Now, there's still old dead trees on the ground. Trees grew up, had their life, fell, and died. There's still carcasses of every animal that rotted back into the soil. But if man doesn't touch it, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, is there still a forest? Does God's world regenerate itself? Is there that fruit that grows out of life that regenerates? Does creation regenerate itself? I often think of that place called the ocean. You go down inside of it. I got to be at the Monterey Aquarium recently and see what their lives are like, at least in an aquarium, and thinking like, man, out there in the ocean, we don't have a glass wall to watch them. They just have a life, and they live and they die, and it all just regenerates itself if man doesn't screw it up. So God's temple, Let me tell you about God's temple. It was a place of fellowship called Solomon's Portico. And then you came in to get serious, to learn, or to be taught, and to begin to serve each other's needs and serve one another. But if you keep going, you no longer get to do that. One another starts to disappear. It starts to be, we focus on you. And when you get so far, there's a curtain that's 4 feet thick. And right here, right here. And if you're right here in the inside of that hole, it's called inside of that inner chamber. The other side of it is called the Holy of Holies. And there's a box that's described in the Bible. And on top are 2 angels, and they got their wings. They took their wings and turned like a point at each other. And in the middle is a blue flame of God's presence. And in the box is the 10 Commandments, and he says his presence lives there. And you would come into that temple, and no man can go behind there except one who's chosen. He's supposed to spend a year preparing his fruit to go behind that curtain. If he doesn't, he drops dead. History tells us they would tie a cord around his foot because if he dropped dead, they would drag him out. You can't go get the body, or you would die. No man could stand in God's presence. And the man who went in there had to prepare himself to bear the fruit of being behind that curtain, and he did it for a year. He's chosen a year in advance and knows when he's going in, and he serves and he ministers to God. He must dust the box. I don't know what he does back there. He says all the prayers, protection, and all that, and then he comes out. This is the temples that Jesus went in and looked around at everything. He saw what they had done to his temple. They were doing stuff like you come to give an offering, and I say American dollars are not accepted, checks aren't accepted. The only thing that's accepted is Father's House coin. Here's a $100 Father's House coin. Here's your $100 bill. But it costs more than $100 to get this coin, and this is the only coin acceptable in the offering, or God's going to be mad at you. And I convince you, God's going to be mad at you if you don't give in Father's House coins. And so I money change with you, and I make you pay more than $100 for my $100 coin, and I money change until it's called extortion. You can't be right with God if you don't give this coin, and if you don't give this coin, it's all going to be bad. So you got to pay me to get this coin. And then I start charging more and more and more, saying it's not good enough. Then you bring your coin, and I say, where's that coin been? That's been in your bedroom? That thing's defiled. No, you got to buy new coins. This is what they were doing, called money changing. Corruption beyond your imagination in God's holy temple, in the portico. And I've told you that whole story because that's what he saw when he went out and cursed the fig tree. We'll talk more about it next week, but he saw the fig tree. There's not ever going to be fruit on this tree. The buds, there's no fruit. You see, if you saw green fruit, you'd say, oh, there's green fruit. It's going to be good soon. That's not what he said. There's no fruit is what it says. And in the temples, there's not going to be any fruit. Now, think about this. That temple continued to exist after the tree was cursed for 40 more years. Then that temple was way cursed worse than the fig tree. I know in our world, some people believe trees have feelings. They don't. The people that suffered in that temple had feelings. The descriptions of that cursing are horrifying, especially when you think of your granny and your baby suffered right along with you. All of the horrors that are described in Titus's siege of Jerusalem 40 years later, where they tore the temple down and said, not one stone left upon another. And that was the prophecy. He will tear the temple down, not one stone left upon another. It was Jesus cursing a fig tree to tell them, this is the future for you if you don't start bearing fruit. Fruit of the covenant that I made with you. I warned you in Deuteronomy, I'm going to send you one, and you're going to listen to him. They were God's people. And he told them in Deuteronomy, if you don't accept the one, you won't qualify to be my people anymore. Then he said, in future time, I will give you another chance. And that's, in my opinion, today, where the Jewish nation exists, but it's not necessarily a religious nation the way that one was. In fact, every Israeli I meet says, I'm not a religious Jew. They defend it to the death. I'm not a religious Jew. They come trying to sell you perfumes and jewelries in malls and things. You know what I'm talking about? And they'll very quickly, oh no, I'm not a religious Jew. But in those days, everybody was a religious Jew. There was no such thing as a non-religious Jew. Are you following me? Am I making sense to you? Okay, picture what I'm saying. The temple, the house of God. He lives in a box. His presence is there, blessing them, and yet they are under the rule of Roman tyranny. What's wrong? Your life is wrong. He made it real clear to them. Your life is wrong. He goes in, he looks around at everything, goes out and curses a fig tree to the roots. This is what will happen. When they question him about it, he says, have faith in God. That's the answer to being cursed. That's the answer to bearing fruit. Have faith in God. Yes. It's right there in red letters. What does this mean? Have faith in God. That was his answer. That's his explanation. Let me explain this whole fig tree thing to you. Have faith in God. See, there, what he looked around and saw was faith is gone. All fruit of knowing God comes through faith. All fruit of knowing God comes through the essence of things hoped for, the presence of things you can't see. It's the knowledge that you have something that you can't see. You believe what you've been told by God, and you live your life as evidence that you believe. Now, in the Christian church, people come, they got their hair done beautiful, they wear wonderful dresses. In some places, hats are the big deal. And they wear the uniform and they dress just like they're supposed to dress, to where everybody would say, oh, what a faithful sister. Jesus called that a whitewashed sepulcher, meaning a nicely painted grave. You might be wearing a nice suit. You might have shiny cars and big houses and all of those things, but where's the fruit? And what is the fruit? He said to a rich man, you had many pleasures in your life. You didn't share one of them with Lazarus as he lay suffering at your gate. You'll get nothing from you. Nothing will be done for you. You had no fruit of faith in God. You thought, I have to take care of me. I can't take care of you. You could take care of you if you wanted to. Just get up and do it. And now you're saying, have him take care of me. If you know the story of the rich man and Lazarus, speaking from hell, by the way, I'd call that curse to the roots. But here we are. We're in a time where you dress the part. You even learn to speak the parts. You speak Christianese. Maybe you quote the book. Because, they quoted the book all day long. They wore robes, fancy hats, big old rings, huge jewelry, lots of bling. And they stood up and they proclaimed their position. And everybody worshiped their position. And yet it says he looked at everything and went out and, as an example, cursed a fig tree because it had no fruit. And it was like an angry moment of, oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how I would have gathered you under my wing as a mother hen gathers her brood, but you would not. And he used a fig tree to demonstrate that example to us. And it ought to cause you some thought. I dress the part, but am I the part? I say I have faith, but do I have faith? I say I love the message. I love the story of Jesus Christ. I love the idea that he would pay for my sins. He would pay my debt, defeat my enemies, serve my sentence. This is so important. I believe all of that. But do you more than just dress the part or speak the words or look like you belong? Do you? Is the basic foundation of your life that none of us can really see. Who are you when no one's looking? Who are you in secret? Who are you when you're not part of a church? When you're not surrounded at church, but maybe off on a vacation or out at work? Who are you? And what is it that would be called fruit? Jesus answered it in one phrase: have faith in God. Have faith in God. He said that to believe in him and to love him was to do what he said. They said, Lord, Lord, it's so good you're here. Wait a minute. Why did you call me Lord? Because I know you. You don't ever do what I say. Why do you call me Lord? Yeah, but I prophesied. I quoted the Bible. I dressed in fine clothes and attended a great church. I listened to sermons all the time. I read my Bible. Yeah, but I don't even know you. Where was your faith? Where was your faith? It's so popular today to say it doesn't matter what you do. I'm just like, I don't think I would bet on that one. Yes. And bet on it, I mean put my life on it. I think I would say, like, this is what I say, and I still say it to this day. I looked at a magnolia tree and realized the world was a different place and knew there's no chance on earth man would have forgiven me or liked me even. Nobody wanted to like me. I was mean. I was angry. I hated everything, including his message. And in 20 seconds, that all changed. You didn't reject me? I would have rejected me. I was stunned. I said out loud, the world's a different place. And here's my prayer, and I've said it many times. Would you help me never forget this feeling right now? Would you help me never forget this? On the other side of that prayer, I had no idea this was true. And now, the world's different. That tree's greener. This air feels richer. The whole world has changed on the other side of a 20-second prayer. And within an hour, I was reading the book of Revelation with all the Christians saying, don't do that, don't do that. But by morning, I'd finished Revelation and I knew, oh no. He curses things. He pours out bowls of wrath. He pours out bowls of blessing, but he also pours out bowls of wrath. Could I volunteer to be on the blessing side? Could I just get the blessing side? And the real truth was, yes, but not being who you used to be. Oh, my Lord. I said, I don't know how to do this. Will you help me? And he did. He did. I just wanted to be a better man because of him. So when he says, have faith in God, it's like, yeah, I do. But do I really? Is there evidence of it? Is there even little buds? How about the flowers that come before the buds? You look on the bush and there's all these flowers and those are going to be tomatoes. Those are going to be tomatoes. There ain't a tomato amongst them. You eat those flowers, they're just not that good. They don't do much they don't enrich you. They don't feed you. They don't get you through another day. But you wait a bit. There's some fruit a-coming because those flowers are there. Is there evidence like that in your life? Do you have faith in God? That's the question. That's the answer to what was the thing with the fig tree? You cursed it, but it wasn't even the season. Have faith in God and you won't be cursed like the fig tree. Don't act like the temple guys and you won't be. And you know what? All of these guys escaped 40 years later. Not one of these guys died in the siege of Jerusalem. Not one. They all died other ways. but they escaped the cursing of the fig tree. Titus punished Israel, and the descriptions are too horrible for me to describe to you. Next week I'll describe them. A little, only a little though. Are you hearing me? You hear what I'm saying? Faith in God. What does that mean? So I always talk about that he says, believe and you'll be saved. Yeah, but what's believe mean? What does believe mean to you? What does believe mean to me? Well, it don't mean having a temple and robbing people and cheating and not trusting God, not putting your faith in man. I think one great guy says, some trust in chariots and horses, but I will trust in the name of my God. I think that's a good start. I think it's really popular today in the Christian church to trust in chariots and horses. America will save me. Donald Trump will save me. You know, someone else. Joe Biden will save me. Kamala will save me. Like what? No, they won't. No, they won't. They might make life easy for 40 years, but whoever they are, they might make things better for now, or they might do this, or they might curb that, but that's not, you put your hope in them and you'll hope again. If you hope in anything besides Jesus Christ and his lordship of you, you'll hope again. If you believe in anything but his church, you're going to hope again. I said believe. If you believe in anything other than his church, you're going to have to believe again. He's saving his church. He's calling his church. He's using his church. He's empowering his church. I will build my church on this rock, the truth, which is you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. That's the rock he built his church on. And the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. No curse will prevail against my church. You want to be my church? There's a yes to be said. You want to be my church? Yes. Then have faith in God. How simple, how kindergarten is that? I mean, if kids were listening, can they get that? You want to be my church? Have faith in God. You want to know me? Have faith in God. You want to see my provision in your life? Yeah. Have faith in God. What's that mean? What's that mean? Wise is the man who heard these sayings of mine and put them into action. He's like a man who dug his hole deep and built his foundation on a rock. And when the waves came and the storms blew and tempest raged, that house stood, and great was the standing of that house. And foolish is the man who hears these words of mine and does not act upon them. He's like the man who just built his house on the sand, and when the storms came and the tempest raged and roared, and says, I give lots of money, therefore I look good. I dress well. I do this, I do that. Yeah, but do you love Jesus with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength? Do you lay down your own flesh and do you deny yourself, pick up your cross and follow him? Or do you use other people for your pleasures and for your needs and for your wants? Or do you use their wants as your impetus to give? Have faith in God. Have faith in God. I want to know you. Have faith in God. I don't want to be cursed. Have faith in God. I want to be blessed. Have faith in God. Isn't that awesome? Come on, that's worth a hoot and a holler, isn't it? I love it. Where do we go from here, Vicky? Where do we go from here? Have faith in God.
Thank you so much for watching this video. We really appreciate it. And please make sure that you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our videos or our live stream. You can also support the Father's House financially by clicking the Give button. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you again soon.